In this video, I'm going to show you a quick, easy way to cut repeatable rabbets on a table saw with a dado stack. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Jason with Ben's Woodworking. This week I want to show you a technique for cutting rabbets using your table saw and a dado stack, and also taking advantage of a sacrificial fence. This is definitely not the only way that you can cut rabbets. It's just one technique. I just want to share that with you guys. For a long time, I was a little nervous about using sacrificial fences. Early on, I was having a very difficult time trying to figure out how people made cuts so close to their actual table saw fence. And that's when I learned about sacrificial fences, started using the dado stack and some other things. So again, this is just another technique to help you out should you ever need to cut rabbets using your table saw and a dado stack. I'll go ahead and talk about the different items that I will be using in this video, and like usual, I will put affiliate links down below should you want to find out more information about these products and or should you choose to buy them. So the first two items are not shown in the picture, and obviously that's my table saw as well as my dado stack. And my dado stack, I use the Forrest dado stack, the Forrest Dado King. The other items that you'll need is a material to use as your sacrificial fence. In this case, I have chose 3/4 inch black melamine for a couple of reasons. One, it is very nice and smooth, and two, it's scraps that I had available. For this demonstration, I will just be using 2 pieces of scrap wood. This is 3/4 inch ply, and this is some 1/2 inch poplar. And so the poplar would act as the back or the piece that's going to go into the rabbet, and then I will cut the rabbet on the 3/4 inch ply. The next items are some of these Kreg setup blocks, which I'll show you a couple of different techniques on how I get it set up. This is just an additional technique, and these things come in very handy for a lot of different reasons. I will also be using a pair of these Rockler clamps that you can get specifically for this reason. They are for sacrificial fences. This bar right here, which you will see in the video, goes into a hole drilled on the sacrificial fence, and this goes to the back side, and you can tighten it down to your actual fence itself. These come in very handy, again, specifically for this reason. And as with most projects, obviously, I'll be using my Incra Tiny T to mark out some different measurements, and you guys will see more of that once we get the video started. There are a couple things that I want to highlight right off the bat. This is going to act as essentially like, let's say, the wall of a cabinet, right? And so I want to make a rabbet along this edge right here. So I'm going to go ahead and mark out the area that I want to cut. The backing for this is roughly 1/2 inch. So let's just draw a line there just for visualization. So this whole area right here is going to be cut out. Now I know that the thickness of this piece right here is 1/2 inch. I know that the thickness of this piece is 3/4 inch from here to here, approximately. Now I have to determine how deep I want that rabbet to be. And in this case, we're going to go with 1/4 inch for the depth of the rabbet. So basically 1/4 inch right here is going to be taken off. Now you could go 3/8, but typically with 3/4 inch plywood, I usually do my rabbets or any depth cuts at 1/4 inch. We now know that this area right here is going to be cut out, therefore accepting this piece here and at the proper depth. I have my piece of black melamine here, and this will act as my sacrificial fence. This end right here is going to go down towards the table saw. I know the depth of my cut needs to be 1/4 inch. So I'm going to take my Tiny T, and I'm going to find the 1/4 inch mark, and I'm going to mark a line. This line is going to be used for reference for as I'm raising the blade, I know when I need to stop. And I'm just drawing the line longer so I don't have to worry about getting my fence in the exact spot. Now I know exactly how high I need to raise my blade. As I raise the blade, which you will see, it will start to cut, and once I cut to that line, that's how I know I've reached my desired depth. This will be sitting against my fence, and because of the clamps that I'm using, as you can see here, I did mention that these will go in the fence, and the way that those go in the fence is they connect like this. I've drilled a hole that will accept the bolt or the rod, and then this will go over my fence, and this will pull it against the fence. I cut 2 of those holes, one here and one here, and then once I put this up against my fence, I will put those clamps on and clamp it to the fence itself. I've come over to my table saw now, and I'm ready to put my sacrificial fence against my actual fence. A couple of things I want to point out. I like to make it at least the same distance as the current fence, if not a little bit longer. And the reason that's helpful is because if I'm starting a board back here, it has a fence to ride along the entire distance of the actual fence. If I decided to just make a little short one here, I would have to make sure I'm much closer and there's nothing supporting it. So again, if you're gonna make a sacrificial fence, you might as well just make it the length, if not a little bit longer. Once I have my fence in place, I can go ahead and put my clamps for the fence on, and I put the rod in the actual hole that I created itself, and I just tighten down my clamp, ensuring that it gets nice and tight to the existing fence. These clamps come in extremely handy for this application, and they really, really work well. The only thing you need to be aware of is where you place these clamps. I like to put it relatively far on the back side of the blade and relatively close before the blade. That way, as I'm raising my blade, I know I don't have any issues or anything like that in terms of the blade hitting the metal. I've brought it in for a closer view, so you're able to see the face of my sacrificial fence. You can visibly see the line that I marked, which will be the height of my cut, which in this case is 1/4 of an inch. And as I bring it in, I want to go over the actual blade itself. Now, here is where you need to be a little bit careful. You don't want to bring it too far over and risk actually cutting the fence itself, but at the same time, you don't necessarily have to have it at the perfect distance. So what you can do is you can look at your current indicator on your table saw, and that'll kind of give you an idea. Now, I'm going to be going 1/2 inch, so I'm going to go ahead and lock it in place here. Again, because it doesn't necessarily matter so much right now. Again, this is a sacrificial fence. So what I'm trying to do now is just get the depth. This fence is actually going to move further away this way to give me the desired cut. Right now, I'm just trying to make sure that I get the proper height. The way that I'm going to accomplish this is that I'm going to go ahead and turn on the saw, and I'm going to slowly raise the blade until the blade is cutting right in the center on that line, and then I know I have the correct height. After that, we will then determine how far we are going to move the fence to the right. As you can see, I've now raised my blade up to that 1/4 inch mark. Now I know when I run my board through this way, the depth of that cut will be 1/4 of an inch. Now I'll share a couple of quick techniques that you can use to adjust how far your fence needs to be to get your desired width of cut. And so the first one, I have my blade here. I can use some of these Kreg setup blocks, and the thing that's great about these is that these are cut exactly 1/4 of an inch in thickness. And so since I know I need 1/2 inch, you could theoretically use these setup blocks and get the proper spacing. Now I know that I lock my fence in place, and I know I have 1/2 inch. Another technique that you can do is you can use the board itself. Now, if I'm going to use this board, I can use that as a reference. I can put this board, raise it just a little bit up, and what I can do is I can move my fence left and right until this board here hits the blades, the teeth of the blades themselves. And so basically this is acting as a stop. I've got this as the spacing between the fence and this board here. So now I know my spacing is correct and I can lock it down. The only thing left to do is to make the cut itself, so I'll turn on the saw, I'll run my board through, and we'll do a quick test fit. Okay, so I'll bring you guys in real close. This right here was my panel that was going to act as the backing. This right here was my piece that I actually cut the rabbet in itself. I'll do my test fit, and as you can see, it came out absolutely perfect. It is perfectly flush and really worked well. As I stated in the beginning of the video, there are multiple ways that you can cut rabbets. This is just one technique that I wanted to share with you guys. Very, very simple. As you can see, everything came out really, really nice. I mean, it's super flush. I didn't have to worry about messing up my fence itself on my table saw, and it just worked very quickly. And if you set these up and you have multiple cuts, using a dado stack on a table saw is a very, very quick, repeatable way to cut consistent rabbets. I really hope you found this video helpful. I would love to hear what you think about it. So leave a comment down in the comment section below. And if you're not following me on Instagram, go check me out over there at Bent's Woodworking, and you'll get to see what I'm doing on a daily basis. And at any time, feel free to send me a DM. I'd be more than happy to respond to any questions that you might have. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. I really look forward to the next video. I'll see you then.